David Baye here from MuscularDevelopment.com. We are in California wrapping things up from the 2015 IFBB Golden State Championships. I'm here with your promoter, Hany, Rambod. Hany, definitely another good event here in Sacramento. We had a really tough top five. Interesting lineup as far as guys go. Cedric first place. We had Manuel Romero in second place. Let's start with talking about those two guys first. Looked like it was pretty close at prejudging.
Yeah. I looked at the score sheet. It was 1 point difference in the prejudging. I think that Cedric had him by 1 point, and then it was more clear cut at night, where the judges had, I think, straight first for Cedric, and then I think it was second for Manuel. They could have been a couple of points off, but it was pretty clear cut at night. But the good thing was, I think the quality show was really, really good, and I think it was a good tune-up for Cedric. Obviously, he wants to go in there with a win. I don't know how many more shows he's doing after this one, but he came in. I think he was probably about 90%, I would say. But at the end of the day, you know, he's got so much size, he's got so much seasoned muscle, it's really hard to beat.
Now, the conversation that's been going on, obviously on Muscular Development, all over the internet, when people found out that Cedric was jumping in this show, is whether he was really going to put the hammer down and try to make a statement 5 weeks out from the Olympia, or if he was going to kind of go on genetics and size, on cruise control, and just get the win and then focus for the Olympia. It kind of looks like, you know, like you said, he definitely wasn't at 100%. I mean, do you think that was a good move for him, letting off a little bit? Because, I mean, five weeks is a long time to hold on to a peak had he really brought it here tonight.
Yeah, I think it is hard to peak for 5 more weeks. What really it does is, number one, it gives him the win. The second thing is it puts another 10 G's in his pocket. So a lot of people don't realize that these shows there's these smaller shows. There's a lot of good guys that could jump in these shows and do really, really well and pull 10 grand. Last time I checked, most people aren't getting 10 grand to do guest posings. And with some of these guys that are really, really good, you're going to start seeing more and more of them jump in. I think Branch Warren, I believe, is going to be doing Atlantic City. So you're going to see that, you know, and Branch Warren is an amazing athlete. Can't wait to see him on stage again. And you're going to start seeing that. And I think that there's going to be an influx of top athletes doing even the smaller shows because of the point system and maybe not winning everything to being able to qualify and also being able to go grab that cash.
Well, we did speak with Evogen athlete Justin Compton at Masters Nationals early on this year, and Justin with a surprising announcement saying he'd planned on competing 5 or 6 times next year, which is a big swing in his game plan from the last 2 years. Back to tonight, Manuel Romero, another second place finish. He got second here last year to Willem, third last year. Still cranking out a top 3. He's a guy that's like this close to winning shows. What does Manuel got to do to be walking away as a winner from shows like this?
Not going against Cedric McMillan. I think obviously if Cedric wasn't here, it was a clear-cut victory for him. Yeah. Obviously I think Cedric is a top 10 Olympia guy. So, when you're battling it out with a 1 point difference between a top 10 Olympia guy, you're starting to show that you can mix it up with the big ones, the bigger boys. So that's really good.
All right, now rounding out the top 5, we had Stefan Havlik in 3rd place, Robert Petrowitz, I'm going to butcher his last name, in 4th place, John Anderson, who's actually only his 3rd show, not 3rd pro show, 3rd show period, did 1 local show last year, won his pro card at Masters, 3rd show. But it's an interesting lineup of 3 guys because, as I had alluded to some of the guys on the MD boards, Stefan's not a big guy when you stand next to him in person. He's not like this mass monster, but he's got a really good physique. It flows real nicely. There's a little bit of controversy as to whether he's a guy who's should be in the top 5. What do you think?
It's one of those things where he has very good symmetry, he's got good conditioning, he's very well balanced. And I think with a show like this, it could go that way because you don't have a lot of guys that are mass monsters that are shredded, so at the end of the day, I think if there's some of these bigger guys were in better shape, I think that he would get pushed back, but that wasn't the case this time. He's got a pretty physique, he had good conditioning, so therefore I do believe he should have been in the top 5.
Yeah, and it just goes to show these guys got to bring it the day of the show. We can talk, this person could do that, or this person, could win this, but really, it just matters what they bring, obviously, the day of the show, and Stefan's pretty consistent in bringing it. The rest of the guys in the competition, if we're talking about potential, there's a handful of that here, most notably guys like Kevin Jordan and Ken Jackson. Both a little bit off the best form that we've seen. Are these guys that can be, top 5, top 3 competitors if they really dial it in?
Yeah, I think both of them are up there. I think Kevin Jordan is a young guy. He's just trying to catch, basically get that groove going where he can start growing and get really conditioned but still grow. So he's like a tweener, what I call, where he needs to get that size to get that three-dimensional look, but at the same time he can't give up the conditioning. So it's going to take him a little bit, but once he does that, he's got a pretty physique. And you're talking about Kenneth Jackson, which I call him Paul Heath, because I thought everyone's like, he looks like Phil Heath, he walks kind of like Phil Heath, and and then he tells me that to tell Phil that he's the better looking cousin of Phil Heath. So Phil, he thinks he's the better looking of the two of you, but and he's got a pretty physique. He just needs to dial it in, man. I mean, these guys, I think they're just giving up a little bit too much to the I want to be big God, until of just conditioning is what wins shows. Conditioning gets you placings. So you need to work on that. Give up the extra 5 pounds, give up the extra 7 pounds. It worked for Justin. Look how much better he looked in Australia. He gave up 5 pounds there, and he was able to really look like he could have really placed in the top 2. And at the end of the day, a lot of people don't realize that conditioning is what wins shows.
All right, now talking about a guy who's usually bringing really good conditioning, he did here tonight, injured right leg, Brad Rowe. Now, we talk so much about how the fans and the promoters and everybody's disappointed that these guys are only doing 1 or 2 shows a year. This is Brad's, I believe, seventh show or something like that. He's only been off, I think, about once, and he brought pretty good conditioning tonight for his leg. Brad's decision to do 7 shows inside of a year, I mean, from a competitor standpoint, is it too much? I mean, from the fans, I mean, we like seeing the guy on stage, but where's that line between we like seeing him on stage enough and it gets to be too much for a competitor's body to be on stage? I mean, you're a nutritionist. You work with a lot of athletes. What gets to be too much?
Well, I think when you're chasing points like he is, it's just you got to keep your head down and chase the points, because he's trying to get qualified for the Olympia. He's trying to get sponsorships going. He's trying to get that, that wheel turning. So I think for him, he's making the right move. Unfortunately, he did have the injury happen. He told me that he was training with his chiropractor or something happened, and it happened right in the middle of filming. And unfortunately, stuff like that does happen. But somebody like him, he is chasing points to try to qualify for the Mr. Olympia. So, but again, once that happens and hopefully he does make it on that stage, then what he can do is shut it down a little bit, work on those body parts that he needs to work on so that he can get to that next level next year going in 2016.
All right. Well, in any regard, my props to Brad for getting on stage. Any guy that's going to limp out on stage, still hit his poses, put a ton of effort into his posing routine, and really bring it for the fans, he's going to get all the props in the world from me. But that is going to do it for us here for tonight. Guys, we got a big show coming up next weekend in San Antonio. Following weekend, we're going to be in Atlantic City for the Europa. Weekend after that, we have North Americans. 1 week off, and then the big show in Las Vegas, and we're going to be there. But for tonight, we're going to wrap it up. So once again, David Baye with Hany Rambod from the 2015 IFBB Golden State Championships for MuscularDevelopment.com.